I have returned. So, I went to see the new Sonic movie. It's good. Like, shockingly good. I was actually kind of surprised with how good it was. Actually, I saw it twice. I just got done seeing my second showing. I went to see the first showing with my sister. And we set our bar low. Like, we weren't expecting much out of it. We were thinking, oh, it's just going to be, another one of those movies where, one of those terrible, video game one of those terrible film adaptations that you get from most video games, like the Mario Brothers movie from the 90s and the Street Fighter movie, even though I think that is a delightful dish of ham and cheese when you're in a good mood to watch it. But with this movie, it was surprisingly well done, and that was really, like, it had no business. It had no business being as good as it was. It was actually quite interesting, really, how I mean, when the first trailer dropped, people thought it was going to be terrible, and with good reason. When you saw the older design of Sonic. And it was just, people were like, what the fuck is this? Yeah, I mean, tons of internet memes have pretty much bashed it to the point where it was, hilarious. But what surprised everyone was that the people who made the film listened to the backlash and went and rechanged Sonic's design for this design that we know now in the movie. And that is interesting. Very rarely does a company such as Paramount, for that matter, listen, to the backlash that people give it. So when the second trailer dropped and they saw the new design, people changed their tune really quick, and people actually were excited to see the film now. Obviously, I set the bar low anyway because I felt like, it's just a it's just a film adaptation to a video game. It's not going to be that good, but it might be worth a laugh or two, an unintentional laugh or two. Much to my shock, this movie is actually good. It's not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. But as a film adaptation to a video game, such as Sonic, it was almost surprising how decent it turned out. The story has kind of been there, done that. It's basically like a buddy road trip kind of movie, and I've seen, plenty of those types of comedies before, but I feel like this was the right tone for this movie. Like, I feel like, it wasn't trying to take itself seriously. I mean, there are those touching moments in the movie that I do think complement to the movie very well, and I feel like without going into spoilers about the story itself, about how it all plays out, I do think that it was a good story. Not original, but for what it was trying to do, it works. It works very well. Jim Carrey plays Dr. Robotnik, the villain. And if you've seen Jim Carrey in any other role that he's done before in the past, if you see, most people know Jim Carrey from The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, and the role that I know him most well for, Liar Liar. He's also starred in Bruce Almighty. He was also the Riddler in Batman Forever. And it's actually kind of awesome to see him go back to that old energy and comedy that he used to do back in the 90s. It was almost a blast from the past. And I feel like that's one thing the film did succeed in. It is a blast from the past. This movie screams the 90s so much. Ben Schwartz, who voiced Sonic in this, does a really good job. I mean, we know other voice actors from various video games in the series have portrayed the character as well as many animated cartoon shows and and the Sonic X anime, and all those other other voice actors who played voiced the role. Um, but I feel like this was a top notch job. I have no problems with the voice actor for Sonic that they had for this. I feel like the writing for this movie is spot on. It is very lighthearted, very funny. It's actually really well written, and I feel like it does justice to the character. The characters are very. You know perfectly well when they go back and redesign the design of Sonic for the movie. You know that you have a team there that really care about what they're doing, and that is, I think, the best thing about this. Really, is that the the movie oozes of charm. I do feel like it did a very good job. It is good for kids. When I went to see the film for the first time, when I was leaving out of the theater, I saw like a little kid with a little Sonic plushie and having the time of his life, and I felt that was a really, really adorable. Hardcore fans of Sonic that grew up with the old games, I feel like would really enjoy it too. It's a lot more faithful than most film adaptations from video games that we see in the past, and they really actually cared about what they were doing in this, with this movie. And I feel like you very rarely see that. And nowadays, we have the Detective Pikachu movie, and we have this movie. That's like two film adaptations to video games that have hit home runs. And like the other film adaptations that we had about a few years back, they were old, they were sort of getting the idea. But now that we had like these two home runs out of the park, could it be? Is the is the video game movie curse gone? Has it been broken? Only time will tell. I actually went to see it by myself the second time. I was feeling down the dumps today, and I went to see it, a second time by myself. And it put me in a good mood. And I feel like that is the one thing that's probably one thing I can't take away from this movie. It's a really feel-good movie. It makes you feel good. It's definitely a lighthearted popcorn movie, no doubt. But the fact that it just oozes with charm and nostalgia at the same time, it gets a lot of things right. It's not perfect by any means. I do feel like there is an occasional joke here and there that doesn't really hit. I do think, Jim Carrey, while he's perfect for the role and he just brings a lot of energy into his role, can be kind of annoying sometimes. But it's nothing it doesn't really do nothing to hurt the movie as a whole. If you go into this movie expecting something, serious, look elsewhere. It's a film that knows who their audience are. And that's a good thing, really, because you don't see many many film adaptations to video games that know who their audience really is. They just kind of attach their name to a franchise just to make, a few $1 million in the movie theaters. But here is a different but here is different. Here we have a faithful adaptation, and very rarely do we see that in a film. And I feel like when it comes to this Sonic, with this Sonic movie, that's the one thing I think it does right. And it's not perfect by any means, but there's so many good moments in it that stand out from the pack. Sure, when you look at the critic score versus the audience score, you clearly see there's a difference in opinion there. But if the audience is loving it, then obviously the movie has done something right. And I feel like this film does a lot of things right more than it does a lot of things right more than it does things wrong. And this could have been a train wreck. This really could have been. But the fact that it isn't just kind of leaves you with such a bigger feeling that you're glad you saw it. And I'm going to be honest with you, I saw it twice, and I'm glad I saw it both times. It is a film that knows exactly what it is, delivers on what it has to be. It's good for kids, good for fans, and if you had a bad day and you need something just kind of fun, lighthearted to cheer you up, I feel like this Sonic movie does that. It is not perfect, like I mentioned before, but I feel like I do think it's really good, and that is so weird to say for a movie based off of a video game, especially in the year 2020. If you haven't had a chance to see it yet, I recommend you do at least once. I do feel like you'll get a lot of enjoyment out of seeing it. With that said, thank you for watching this video of me talking about the movie, and stay tuned for more videos in the future. I know I've been gone for a while. I'm sorry about that. Life can be hectic. But please stay tuned for more. Thanks for watching. Love you guys. Take care.